Courtney, what is your process for taking characters that are written in the script, which they may not have much description, but then it's your job to kind of visually bring them alive? What's your process for that?
Well, I think when you are a designer or a visual person to begin with, when I'm reading, I'm just seeing images. You know, it's just coming to me. And whether ultimately those images end up being completely wrong or dead on, it's just a starting off place. So when you start to read a script, I mean, you know, The Hateful Eight is a very special circumstance because of the way that Quentin writes his scripts. I mean, he writes his scripts in so many ways, like for his crews, because what happens between the dialogue is as good as the dialogue. You know, it's like, it opens and it's like in glorious 70 millimeter, you know, you're just there and you feel like everything you see, unlike so many scripts that you do, turn out to be as amazing or better than what you could imagine them to be. Whereas so many times you read a script and then you see it and you're like, oh, but in my head, the one in my head was so good. Well, the one in Quentin's head is obviously going to beat any of ours. So I start to read it, and while I'm reading it, I see images. So whether, you know, it starts to talk about Bob the Mexican, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about Eli Wallach and, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Or, you know, you're reading something when you hear Lee Van Cleef, you know, was one of the references in the script for Sam Jackson's character, Major Warren. And I'm thinking, okay, is it Lee Van Cleef in The Big Gun Down? Is it Lee Van Cleef in? So, you know, I just immediately, I mean, I also came with, specifically on a Western, a wealth of knowledge, because my first film I ever designed was a Western, $400,000 Western called Dead Man's Burden. So I am pretty versed in Western. So it's already a language you pull from. I mean, we all know, say, clothes, because you get dressed in the morning. So if you read a contemporary movie, you might think, well, that reminds me of that shirt I have, or, you know, oh, that kind of reminds me of that girl I knew in high school, or that character really reminds me of that boss I had that I really didn't like. So I'm always doing that, you know, whether it's contemporary or period, you know, and then you think about other movies, you know, and you think, oh, that kind of reminds me of, oh, you know, Rebecca, or, you know, whatever it is, depending on the period that you're reading. And then from there, you start to gather the images physically that are in your head. So when I go to interview for The Hateful Eight, I mean, I went very over the top, but because I was like, I'm getting this job. I researched, you know, had a ton of real images of people in the 1800s, you know, late 1800s, when photography started becoming available. The Klondike expeditions in the early 1900s were all in the snow, so there was some really great imagery there. And then also working with movies. Okay, so what movie reference, because it's Quentin, he wants to hear what movies you're thinking about. So what movies I'm pulling from, and then actual furs, and then what fur I found that I thought would be cool, or what images I found. I worked with the Autry Archives to get actual historical pieces that we could revamp or recreate. That's John Roos Code is actually from there. And so then you know, you're building what's in your head physically for someone to see. And a lot of times, even if it's totally wrong, it's the start of the conversation. And directors are visual people. So getting them the visuals to say, oh, hey, I never thought about that type of hat. That wasn't what I imagined, but maybe let's see it. You know, so working from there to give them something to react to, because they don't have the language that we have. Like, I did a Terrence Malick movie, and like he was talking with the designer, and he just kept saying like, Jersey, just make everything be in Jersey. And so you have to say like, okay, what does that mean to him? Is it that it's soft? Is it that it's slinky? You know, what is Jersey? You know, they have this vocabulary that's like, Quentin, I love, he's always like, this houndstooth, and I'm like, you don't know what houndstooth is. But it's cool to try and excavate what they're seeing without them having that vocabulary always.
Sure. So when you have this visual and you're getting feedback from the director, how much do you let the actor also help shape this character and say, you know what, this doesn't actually feel right, or yes, this does?
I mean, they have, of course, opinions that we want to honor. On a Quentin movie, it's a little different because Quentin is physically in the fittings with you. So a lot of times what happens is you have a meeting with the director, and the director's like, I see this character this one way, and I see this. And you're like, okay, great. So I pull based on that because they're my boss. And then you get into the fitting room, and the actor's like, oh, no, I didn't think that this was what I see this as. And so now you're the go-between these two parties. So Quentin, unlike most directors, is in the room because he is the creator. He is the mother of these characters. So if he's giving birth to them, he's gonna be there to watch them take their first step, and that's literally what a fitting is. And I think Robert De Niro told him a long time ago that he finds his character when he puts on his shoes, and Quentin thought, well, if I wrote that character, why wouldn't I be there when they put on those shoes? And so he's there, and that really takes out the middleman. So if the actor is like, I don't, but if Quentin's saying that he thinks something is right, they're gonna go along with it.
Sure.
He really is. He's the orchestrator of all of this. So everyone is pretty receptive to if his opinion. Obviously he'd never force an actor in something that felt terribly wrong, but everyone knows it's gonna be right because it's coming from his head.
Right. So then how does he know, and how do you all know that the character's ready? Obviously when he says
well,
go,
he has it in his head. I think so much of the job of working with Quentin is excavating what is that image in your head. And a lot of times he doesn't necessarily know it until he sees it, but it's sort of the trial and error of, okay, Major Warren was a perfect example because originally, okay, he's been up in the mountains, he's bounty hunting, so I had pictured originally that he was a little more of like a wilderness man, a little bit more of a man of the wilderness, like, some fur ankle, thing, and some handmade stuff, and he had kind of taken his uniform and turned it into a wilderness version of himself. And then in the end, we kept feeling like, okay, well, that doesn't feel quite right. It just doesn't. And we were trying that, and we tried this other angle, and then Quentin had the image of, there's a Western called Sartana, it's a spaghetti Western series. And we always had said, okay, Lee Van Cleef. So what is Lee Van Cleef? Lee Van Cleef is a tie and a vest and a brocade vest that fits perfectly and a straight hat. And we'd already had the hat and the jacket, but it was filling out those pieces. And then when he thought of that Sartana, that bright red, that bright yellow, and we started to pull it together, it became Major Warren, and that was different than other characters. Other characters come very easily. Bob the Mexican, on my interview, I went to Chamayo, New Mexico, and I picked up the textiles that were later to become Bob's vest, which are hand-woven textiles they're called Chamayan textiles from Chamayo, New Mexico. And I said, could you ever replicate this 10 times? Because we needed 10 of everything. And the weaver was like, maybe, if we modify the design. And so, that was, before I even interviewed, that was my vision in my head, is like, okay, it was Mexican. I wanted to be Mexican. I wanted to feel that. And so, it's not always that, do I go to the left? Do I go right? Do we go underground? Do we go over the, wall to figure it out? Basically, you're excavating the character from the script, wading through a director's vision and an actor's opinion. And that's a really exciting process.
I think I read about you that you are very into the power of manifestation. I think there was like a Post-it note that things happen for you.
As my mom says, once I've made up my mind that I want to do something or want something, she's like, well, forget it. Like, you're doing it. Because I really believe, obviously I'm here and so grateful to be here because I saw it, I wanted it. And when I first read the script, I thought, like, this is an amazing opportunity to dive in to this next level of filmmaking, but still have an intimate enough cast to really do the work that I'm excited to do and show off what I'm capable of doing while honoring such a tremendous story. And the thing about Quentin is, the actors benefit from the fact that he's not hiring the hottest person with the best resume, with the this, with the that. He's hiring the right person for a job. So that's how Walt Goggins is Chris Mannix. It wasn't because Walt Goggins is a giant movie star, it's because Walt Goggins is Chris Mannix. And we are all the benefactors of this generosity of spirit, of his intuition of knowing that someone is right for something. And that I feel so endlessly grateful for the opportunity to be able to have shown the world what I'm capable of,
Well, keeping with the manifestation, I think you also said that you would love to have a costume that you've designed in a museum or the ArcLight.
So my two career goals were my short term, career goals. So one day I want someone to dress as my character for Halloween, because I just thought, wouldn't that be the most amazing thing to be walking around on Halloween and be like, I designed that. And then the other one was to have my costumes in the lobby of the ArcLight. And now I think that they will be in the ArcLight, but they're also being put in the permanent exhibit of the Autry Museum of Western Heritage.
Oh, great.
And Sam Jackson's costume, it's Major Warren and Daisy and John Ruth, and it's really exciting. It's also really exciting that Sam's costume will be there because there is not obviously a lot of diversity. It's Western Heritage, so it's like John Wayne and every other amazing Gene Autry, every other amazing white dude that wore a great costume, and it's really cool to be able to say that I helped, design these costumes, that it will be there.
Any favorite that if you had to choose that one person you're going to see on Santa Monica Boulevard next Halloween?
Oh, well, actually I saw there already was 2 people that dressed as the costume for Halloween. And it was Daisy, and they did OB with the balls on the hat. They taped balls on the hat. And someone took a picture, and I was like, oh my God, it's already happened. So I think, obviously the costumes, I thought about this a lot, and I'm like, God, I kind of designed complicated costumes for people to try and recreate, but I believe they can do it. So I think Major Warren's would be great. Just getting that white and that red and that yellow would be really fun to see. And
right.
I think it'd be a really fun couple's costume if they did John Ruth and Daisy. I mean, that'd be just great. But good luck finding that buffalo coat,
Right, right. Well, I know you also said that you feel, and I'm not sure if I'm saying this the right way, but that anyone with sort of tenacity and willpower can get anything done.
Yeah.
So what would you advise someone maybe coming out of Tisch, or even who hasn't gone to college but they would like to somehow get involved? What's their first step?
Yeah.
How do they move up?
Well, whenever I meet with people who are interested in getting into costumes, the first thing I always ask is, who are your favorite designers? So the first step is knowledge. Know who in your field or who in your aspiring field you want to be. I want to be Colleen Atwood. I want to be Sandy Powell. These are women who I do what I do because of their work. And, so that and you see that. And then from there, acquiring the skills. So after you've acquired the knowledge, because whenever you meet people, especially in our fields where we're faceless people, so your name, you're like, oh, Colleen Atwood, what would it be like to be, and you don't even, when I was younger, I once stood next to her in line in a bathroom and I didn't know it. And it was like my biggest regret of my career was I didn't talk to her in that moment by the bathroom. And then she called me to work for her and I ended up working for her for 2 years. And years later, and I was like, maybe it was okay that I didn't gush at her in a bathroom, but knowing who those people are that you can see that you want to be, and then learning from them, and the reality is, if you approach anyone and you say, I would do anything for you, and I'll do it for free, and I'll do it, save that money to be able to just get in the room with those people. Jacqueline West gave me a really big break on Water for Elephants by putting me in charge of all the background of a period circus movie. And I feel so grateful, but it was because I was like, I will drive to wherever you are, I will mow your lawn, whatever you need me to do, I will do it. So know who you want to be, and then try and be in a room with them and try and learn from them. Get them coffee. It doesn't matter, no one is going to say no to that type of passion and that type of, endearment.
Right. So your mission statement is? My mission statement
is, see the prize, see what you want, and then be smart about it, and I always say, be like, I used to call the Designers Guild, and I'd say like, hi, I just ran into so-and-so and I need their email, and I had never even met them because I just wanted to be able to reach out to these people. And even if none of those emails are responded to, even if you've put it into the universe, I always say, I've sent thousands of emails into the universe that were never responded to, and I'm here because they were responded to in that way. Does that make sense?
Excellent. That's excellent.